Well, this just in, Nick Saban doesn't hold much back. You know, if you're a reporter and you ask a question that he doesn't like, he's probably going to tell you. And as it turns out, if you're a fan and you do something he doesn't like, he's also going to tell you. Take a listen.
And I think it would be a crying shame if we boo them when they come out of the stadium like we did last week's team. Because I just don't understand that. We can cheer for our team because what our team does doesn't have anything else to do with the other team. And somebody told me that, and that kind of made me say, I didn't even know that happened. But that's certainly not what I think a class institution and a class place should do to their own or to anyone else.
Well, one thing you can say about Nick Saban, as you said, he gets to the point. Brad Edwards, ESPN, Radio Game Day, BCS expert, and you've dealt with Nick Saban. You know, like John said, ask him a question. You're going to get an answer.
Yeah, you will. He's a direct guy, and I think that's what makes him so successful as a head coach. Is that you know, he's all about business, and he's not about wasting time. And so you know, he's very efficient with everything he does. And I think one great thing that players who played for him, not just the guys right now, but guys who've moved on to the NFL, when you talk to them about Saban, they'll tell you that you always know where you stand with him. And that's a really good thing with a coach. And I think players respect that, and they respect it even more once they get older, and they know that a guy like that really helps them get better. Because if you know where you stand, and that also means you know when you need to make improvement. And Saban's a guy who gets the most out of his players.
No doubt.
Brad, let's get into tonight's game, the big game here in Tuscaloosa, Penn State and Alabama. Penn State, what do you see from them? They've got the freshman quarterback, and they've got to go up against Alabama's defense, which has been known to give quarterbacks in the SEC fits.
Yeah, and Joe Paterno will tell you this is one of the youngest teams that he's ever had, and it's not just because he has a true freshman quarterback, but that is a major story in this game. And did a little research on it this week and found out that there has never been an AP #1 ranked team lose a game on its home field to a team with a freshman quarterback, true or redshirt. So he's trying to do something that's never been done before. And so that is a big factor. The other thing for Penn State that I think right now worries them even more than having a true freshman quarterback is that last week against Youngstown State, they weren't able to establish the run. They have a good running back in Evan Royster, but they couldn't get the running game going against that team. And we know Alabama hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in a really long time, and if they can't get him, get him going to take some pressure off that young quarterback, it could be a long day for the Penn State offense. And so that's a major concern of theirs. And I think for Penn State to have a chance in this game, they have to establish some sort of running game.
Yeah, Royster 40 yards, very surprising last week against Youngstown State. But for Alabama, and of course around here, Alabama fans, when they're riding high, they don't think anybody's got a chance to beat them. And not giving, at least a lot of the fan base, not giving Penn State a lot of respect. But from an Alabama perspective, regardless of how talented, when you lose the Heisman Trophy winner, when you lose an Outland and Lombardi Award candidate on the defensive line, Courtney Upshaw, talented pass rusher who'll play on Sundays, he's banged up. He'll be less than 100%. They've got some issues going into this game.
You mentioned it earlier in the show. I mean, you're talking about their best offensive player in Ingram, probably their best defensive player in Darius, and I can't think of another team in the country where you could take away the best player on each side of the ball and that nobody would be making a big deal of it. And everybody's feeling sorry for Penn State, which is a testament to how well Saban has recruited and how well they've developed the talent once it's gotten here. But at the same time, they're vulnerable. I mean, you know what? You're vulnerable anytime you play a team that has talented players. Just look at last year for Alabama. The best teams they played weren't the ones that came the closest to beating them. They were some of the middle-of-the-pack teams, Auburn and Tennessee. And so you've got to be careful anytime that you take the field. And if it's one of those games where you don't have your A game, and you never know when those days are going to come. You can't play your best every Saturday.
Real quick, Brad, and we're almost out of time. The weather, the humidity, the heat. Is that overplayed when the northern team comes down the south, or will be a factor for Penn State?
I actually thought that that's something that does get overplayed, and I asked yesterday one of the guys I work with who's a wide receiver at Stanford, I said, what do you think? He told me that they opened their season one year at Texas, and he said they went through walkthrough, and they just had sweat pouring all over them in the walkthrough, and he said it was in their heads the day before the game. and it was absolutely a factor once the game started playing. So I tell you, if the temperature's like this at kickoff, it will affect a team from Pennsylvania. There's no question.
Good stuff, Brad. Tell them when they can catch you on the radio here in just a little bit.
We'll be on the radio from the quad, and we'll be going from 11 to 6 Central Time here. So you can hear us on ESPN Radio or come out in the quad and listen to us.
Thank you, Brad.
Brad, appreciate it.
My pleasure to be here.
Brad Edwards, ESPN.
Right now, let's find out how hot it's going to get. Richard Scott standing by with that.
Hey guys, I'll tell you this right now, it's too hot to be wearing a long sleeve outside. It's just some hot weather either way you put it. Last week we were very lucky, had a nice fall-like weather and nice break in the hot weather and the humidity. Well, right now that's just not going to happen. Let's show you what's happening across the southeast, our satellite and radar. There is a cold front on the way. Just can't get here in time. Now we're going to see showers and storms break out ahead of that front. The front right now is over Arkansas, about to move into Mississippi, Tennessee, and eventually Alabama. We'll see showers and storms breaking out across north and central parts of the state. But locally, two-state satellite and radar, we're already starting to see a couple of showers over North Mississippi, and as it heats up, as it gets hotter, the humidity really starts to boil out there. We'll start seeing more showers and storms. So let's show you the temperatures right now. Already 77 degrees. Now this is our 8 o'clock observation. 77 in Tuscaloosa, 80 in the Magic City. Already very hot, and we'll show you what's going to happen the rest of the day. Through this afternoon, it's just going to be very hot. I mean, I can't say it enough. Hot, hot, hot. 94 degrees by 3 o'clock. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible once it moves towards 3 o'clock, but a much better chance of rain after that. And guys, it's going to be hot for the game. If you have plans for kickoff, we're talking temperatures in the mid-90s. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Richard. Up next on Crimson Tide Kickoff, she rolls with the Tide. He signs with the Nittany Lions. Today, only one of them is going to be happy. We'll introduce you to a couple that has some serious bragging rights on the line.
And John, also still ahead, so many great memories, so many great moments. We'll look back at the history of the Alabama-Penn State series. This is Crimson Tide Kickoff, presented by AT&T and Alpha Insurance.
And welcome back to Crimson Tide Kickoff. Julie and Joe McLaughlin have been football fans for quite some time and actually attended the 1979 Penn State-Alabama game. The only thing is, they were not married, did not even know each other at the time, and sat on opposite sides of the field. Julie's a lifelong Alabama fan, Joe a lifelong Penn State fan. Now 30 years later, they're married, and this will be the second time that they have both been in the stadium for a game between the Tide and Nittany Lions, and they join us now. Thank you all very much for getting up early with us today.
Thank you.
Let me start by asking, how did you two finally meet? You were in the stadium in 1979, but how did y'all finally meet each other?
I'm a Birmingham native. He was transferred to Birmingham, and we met at the complex that we both lived.
What's the last month been like for you two, knowing that this game's been coming up? Has there been a lot of trash talking?
Yes.
Mostly on my side. But
he has his own tickets. I'm not sitting with him at the game today.
You're not sitting with each other at the game.
My big concern was where I was going to sit.
Depending on who comes out on top today, are y'all going to be rubbing it in, or are you going to take it easy on each other?
I can be very gracious. I don't know if...
he rubs it in a little bit more?
Exactly.
Well, Julie, I know this is your 30th year at Golden Flake, and of course we all know the relationship between Golden Flake and the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're in their 51st year of sponsorship with Alabama. And also, you were a producer on the Bear Bryant Show for the last 3 years. I know we've got some video of that. Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
That was an opportunity of a lifetime. Coach Bryant, we were all on his team. If he had asked us to suit up, we would have suited up and come down here and played for him. He was such an icon. Even back then, we'd all done it for free. There's our opening my potato chips.
Golden Flake and Coca-Cola, great combination. What was he like, kind of in that setting? What was he like being around there? Easy going.
Easy, and a lot of teamwork. You could see him recruiting on the television show, and it was all about the mamas and papas, and it was his bad coaching. It was never the team or never the players. So he was very, very easy to work with.
And Joe, what about you? What maybe is your favorite Penn State memory of watching them all these years?
Well, actually, when Bears' last game was at Penn State, my seats, I still have season tickets, were right above where the visiting team entered and left the field. And Alabama was beating us pretty badly that day, and I went down to be where the team exited so I could see them leave the field. And I'll never forget seeing Bear walk off the field that day. And the games between Alabama and Penn State were always something special to, I think, both fan bases.
Real quickly, we're about to run out of time. Who's going to win the game today?
Roll Tide.
Penn State.
I just wanted to hear you two argue.
It's going on, yes.
Julie and Joe, thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
Thank
And
you.
up next on the program, Alabama and Penn State have produced some memorable moments over the years. Up next, we'll look at some of the games and talk to the players that were there. And later, will the Tide tame the Lions? Will the Gators bounce back after a rocky start? We'll get all those answers from our guest prognosticator, Crimson Tide Kickoff, back after this.